It is King line cards, formerly gold line cards, and Che from EN Sports Cards One here with another cardboard corner for you. And for those who don't know the story behind the King line cards, I put a Twitter poll out there because my Twitter name is Gold Line Cards. I got a bunch of merch and stuff. I send out koozies to everybody who buys from me. I just really think it's cool. And I put out a Twitter poll said, "Do you know my first name?" Yes, no, and gold. And somebody just joking around put yes, your name is first name is gold and your last name is line cards. So I decided to take it a step further and say from now on I will be addressed as Mr. Line Cards. And then my daughter and I do a Sunday morning. Uh, we call it Cards and Coffee with Chris, and then whatever she's drinking. Like yesterday was hot cocoa with Claire, and she had on this little princess crown that our neighbor gave to her. Puts it on my head, crowns me king, and I became King Line Cards, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. So I will be King Line Cards until further notice, but I'm still Gold Line Cards. So we're here today with the birthday show because today's my
Right.
birthday.
Happy birthday, dude. I've got the birthday theme background going on. So, yeah, it's happy birthday, man.
I appreciate it. I've got the birthday crown. So, first thing I want to get right into are I have noticed that some of these stud rookies, their card prices are going down. Do you
They
think
are.
they're sustainable? Well, obviously, it's going to the off season, everything kind of goes down, but going into next season, what are some of the rookies that you think are going to hold their value and some that are going to go down? I know like Aquino and Lux didn't start the season on the rosters, but then came up. Bichette and Kyle Lewis and Lewis Roberts, or even if you go to basketball, Tyler Hero with the playoff pusher, John Zion, and really want to get your take on who you think's going to hold their value going into next season.
I think, you know, be a combination of things. Obviously, first and foremost, the two that I don't think will hold their value long term, basketball. And I know he's your guy, Zion. I think he started off too high. I mean, there was nowhere to go but down. He would have had to have a hero esque, no pun intended, but a Tyler Hero esque playoff run in this first year to justify that initial price point. I mean, he started off with nowhere to go but down, in my opinion. Um, and, obviously kind of injury riddled first year. That body type, man, he's so athletic. I mean, we haven't seen too many people like him in the NBA, but I don't know how well that body type is going to contribute to his longevity with his style of play. I think he's got to do something either with his, adapt his game to his body or adapt his body to his game a little bit. So as we go into next year, I think, there'll still be some hype around him. It'll be his first full year. I don't think we'll see an initial drop at the beginning of next year. But I think, like, as far as a long term, I just think it's almost impossible for him to hold that value. Um, Same with Robert. Robert jumped out of the gates just like boom, Zion and Jason Dominguez level um, prices, this year. And while he didn't have a terrible season, he wasn't Aristides Aquino this year. He did have, he went through a slump. He went through a pretty good slump. And we saw, and we've already seen the drop kind of happen, which kind of hurt me a little bit because I kind of got stuck holding quite a few and did not initially. I did sell my big one. I had that SSP that I was like, there's no way this thing can maintain $1,000 value. So I got over 1,000 out of that SSP, which
You got to take the money at something
yeah, I
like that.
got to take the money on that. But I had the SP, and then I probably got 40 to 45 other of his Chrome or his Tops base, things of that nature. And I was guilty of holding on to him. And then once the decline started, I'm like, well, I got to hold him because I
Yeah.
didn't want to just like panic dump him. But then I'm like, well, where's this going to bottom out? So I think, in my opinion, Robert and Zion, among those you named, will be the most likely to drop. If I'm going to hold one right now, I might be holding Lux. Lux. when the first issues came out in the spring, he was up there. He was one of the hot rookies, but then he had some, you know, some mental. I don't want to say mental breakdown. That's the exact wrong word. But he had some brain farts, if you would, in spring training, and just didn't come mentally prepared for the big league, and he got left off the opening day roster. So he didn't, his cards kind of plateaued at that low point early and never really had the chance to rise like some of the others did. But all of a sudden, you look up and he's now an integral part of an NLDS team that's probably going to go to the World Series. So he's going to have that playoff spike. As long as he doesn't go out there and do something just embarrassing, I think he'll either stay steady or rise a little bit before the end of this year. And then going into next year, he'll be on that opening day roster. And I think he might be one that has a chance to do some climbing that we all expected him to do this year, but he didn't. And I just kind of rambled there, but that's kind of my take on that.
And you pulled Mr. Line or King Line cards here, because that's what I
Yeah,
tend to do, just ramble on. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with Aquino. He was left off the opening day, and he's like the seventh or eighth best Reds outfielder. And the only reason people loved him because he hit 8 home runs in 8 games last year. And I'm as guilty as the next guy. I
on
loaded up
me.
on him off season. I can't even get rid of him for half of what I paid for right now. So I'm kind of where you are with Robert is, I'm not getting rid of my $80 autograph for $30 at the moment. It's going to be $30 now. It's going to be $30 again. But one guy you didn't mention was Bo Bichette.
Yeah, yeah,
He was hurt for some of the season, but guy is legit. And a lot of
he
people
is.
don't give him enough credit because he's playing with Vlad and he's playing with Kevin Biggio. And just like Lux, he's got hitters around him. So Gavin Lux is playing on the best team in baseball, and he's got hitters around him. So pitchers are going to have to pitch to him. It's not like he's Joey Votto where you've played 11 of your seasons with nobody around you and pitchers don't have to pitch to you. I mean, they're going to have to pitch to Gavin Lux and he's going to have to prove himself. And, honestly, you talked about the playoff push, and I kind of haven't seen it this year, which is really surprising. Before
Yeah,
the playoffs, I bought 3 different Acuna Jr. PSA 10s, and right now all of them are less than what I paid for them.
really.
And it's really surprised me. And so the same with Gavin Lux, like the prices, I just have not seen what I thought they would be at for two guys who are in the National League Division Series playing for a chance at the to go to the World Series.
Yeah,
Now, Zion, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. His body type, like he blew out that Nike shoe against North Carolina when he was playing for Duke. He came out of the gate and his prism was $120 before he even played a game. I mean, his base prism was going for over $200 at his height. But now, if he would have made that 8 spot and say they upset the Lakers, he goes on a little hero type run, and all of a sudden that card just keeps going off because that's how the market is. It's the flavor of the month. It's like what I like to call it. Like
yeah.
the guy from Tampa right now, I can't think of his name all of a sudden, but you
I was
mentioned,
going to actually double back to him a second ago because Randy Rosarina.
yeah,
He's the only playoff spike I've seen, but that's because he was coming from nothing. So he
yeah.
was coming from 50 cents up to $2 to $3 for a base tops, rookie or whatever.
So it's honestly a guy I've never even heard of to all of a sudden looking through my boxes to see if I've got any of them to unload for a couple of bucks.
Yeah,
And that's the spike. But I really think, Ja Morant is the best player in that draft, and
yeah.
his cards will hold, or they're going down a little bit right now. But by the time my PSA submissions come back, that's when NBA will be back on. So I think I'm good there. But people don't talk enough about Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett. Like they played at Duke in Zion's shadow. RJ is in New York on the Knicks with nothing. And, Cam's down in Atlanta with a terrible team, but he's got Trae Young with him. He's got some other rising stars, and they've got a real shot to be awesome, I think. And they just don't get the love that they deserve. Same with, Tyus Jones and Grayson Allen. Like, I have Grayson Allen. I bought so many of them because he's a Duke guy, and I collect former Duke players that I bought for 50 cents a dollar. And all of a sudden in the playoffs, his playoff spike, you can buy Grayson Allen silvers for $30. I'm like, yes, take 10 of mine. I'll take your $300. Like, are you kidding me? Cards I
Absolutely,
spent two
absolutely.
bucks on? Like, absolutely. So, In my opinion, going further, I'm on the Lux train, I'm on the Bichette train, and the John Morant train.
Yeah, I think John Morant. A couple points. John Morant, to me, I was going to say, maybe he's a little undervalued. I don't think he's undervalued. I think he's properly valued. But when you compare him to how overvalued Zion has been, it makes him look undervalued. But I think Jaws, he's right where he needs to be, and I think he's going to be stable. Um, Man, he's got tremendous potential from the get go. And I'm not a Duke fan, so this is kind of weird. We got a UK fan and a Duke fan doing a
You got
weekly
the
card
UK
show.
shirt on. You sure you're not a Duke
Yeah,
fan with that
but I mean,
1992 Leitner shot with the 2.1 seconds? Oh, I'm just kidding.
from the beginning of the first basketball card issues, I would have traded you. Hey, I'll give you this one Zion for those, two jaws or three jaws of the same,
Absolutely.
all day long, every day. I think long term he's got superstar potential written all over him, and I think so does Bichette. Bichette, I was going to say that when you were back talking about baseball. One thing he's got, two things he's got name recognition, you know,
Dante's son.
and he's got personality, and personality goes a long way. So
The
if you
young
look, compare
people call
him to Lux,
swag.
yeah, I might, I'm looking at Bichette, you know, and just you're seeing that, Lux could have the greatest personality in the world, but we haven't seen it yet. But we have seen it from Bo, you know, and same with Tyler Hero. You might not like his personality,
He's
but
got some swag.
he's got some swag and he's got some personality. And I think I was surprised how undervalued he was at the beginning of basketball. I think obviously he's seen probably too high of a playoff spike. I think he'll come back down to earth a little bit. But long term, man, I think that guy's got a niche in this league, um, and I think he might be a good hold as well.
Yeah,
If you
makes
have him, I wouldn't go buy him right now at $500 for a silver prism. But if I had one,
a hold.
I don't know if I don't know if I would sell right now or hold. So
See, those are the ones I'm sending into PSA right now. As
yeah,
with their times, they'll be coming back about when I want to sell them. Like,
Panini's got one of my silver prism Tyler Heroes that they've had since March 1st, and won't even acknowledge to me whether they even
yeah,
received the card or not. I cannot get them to reply to me. Cannot. I bet I've called 15, 20 times, sent 7 or 8 emails, tagged them on Twitter a dozen times, filled out that box, that feedback box on the ticket status page 5 times. They have not acknowledged me one time. And
well,
it's a Tyler Hero silver prism. I'd like to know. I told him, I said, just send it back. Just send it back at this point. I'll take it with the indentions. I just like to have my card back. And they won't even acknowledge me. That's another episode. We'll talk about that next week. Panini.
I got a good story about some Bowman first editions too. We can get in for
Yeah.
next time. But
Yeah.
hey, we got two MLB playoff games tonight, and I'm a Trevor Bauer fan. I love him in Cincinnati, but he's tweeting everywhere. The other day I see him saying, "Hey, I'm in Washington today. What are some of the sights I should see around town?" Of course, it's Washington D.C. He's going to go see the White House, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln, and someone made a comment, "Oh, you'll play for everyone. Oh, he won't play for the Astros." He's like, "Oh, get out your pocketbook. I'll play for anybody."
Man,
And
he
then
freaking talked about Baltimore. He even did a Baltimore tweet. I was like, man, he's
he's
doing everybody.
he's watching the Yankees. He played with Garrett Cole at UCLA, and he's like, looks like the Yankees could use another starting pitcher. And he's just,
Yeah.
trolling everybody. Then he comes out with the video. He's just doing a live thing with people, talking to him, asking him questions. They said, who's the front runner right now? He said, whoever's got the biggest paycheck. And he's long said that he'll play a bunch of 1-year contracts from here on out. He's only signing 1-year deals, but hopefully it would be, a bunch of 1-year deals with the same team. So he said if all money was equal, he'd come back to the Reds. He said it was the most fun he's had in professional baseball since his college days at UCLA was this season with the Reds. He absolutely loves the pitching coach. Like Sonny Gray's become one of his best friends, and him, Sonny, and Castillo become just the trio of people. But right now, Trevor Bauer to me is the NL Cy Young. We got two games going on right now: the Dodgers and the Braves, and the Rays and the Astros. And I've thought all along the Dodgers is head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah,
And so far they're showing it. And then I thought the Braves were the best hitting team. But right now they're getting by with their pitching.
they
Granted,
are.
they played the Marlins and the Reds, who are not great hitting teams. The Astros, they're just a whole nother story, but the Rays just look excellent. And I'm really hoping, I'd like to see the Rays versus the Braves, but I'd kind of also like to see the Astros versus the Dodgers because the Astros cheated the Dodgers out of a championship. But in the end, to me, the Dodgers are just too good. I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Trevor Bauer, where he's going, and the MLB playoffs?
The only thing with Bauer is there's one major problem with that scenario that you laid out. Where you said money being the same, he would be in Cincinnati. We both know money's not going to be the same when it comes to the Reds ownership. I mean, and plus we're so invested in Votto's 10-year, $8 billion contract or whatever it was. Um, but I just don't see him coming back to the Reds. Um, and I agree. I mean, if he's not going to go to the Reds, he's going to shop. He's going to shop wherever he goes. Well, 26 places he goes or 27 places he goes, he'll walk in as the ace. Um, he can name where he wants to go
And that's
and
what he
pretty
wants
much
to be,
name.
is the ace.
Yep, name his price. Um, Baseball, um, not a big Braves guy. Haven't been since childhood, so can't see myself wanting them to be in the World Series for any reason. Um, so I think it's going to be the Dodgers. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with the Dodgers pick because I just don't want to pick the Braves, and I think the Dodgers, are the superior team. Um,
Absolutely.
and man, I want to see the Rays. I'm not a Rays fan. Couldn't tell you anybody besides Randy Rosarina who's on the team, but I don't want to see the Astros. So basically, right now I'm just like, who do I not want to see in the World Series? Okay, by default, give me
Yes.
the Dodgers and Rays.
Yes.
I might not watch because I haven't watched today. I mean, I got an NFL game going on. We had the NBA Finals, game 6 last night. College football is my favorite of all the major sports. We had that Saturday. So baseball, while I followed it while the Reds were in it, and tried to keep up with it, you know, I told you back if it was the Padres and White Sox, it would be must see TV, and I'd watch every game of the World Series. I'll turn the World Series on, and I'll watch games, especially when it's not going head to head with well, it can't be the NBA now because the
Of
NBA is
course, yeah.
done. But yeah, I'll watch it no matter who's playing. If it's the Astros and Braves, I'll watch. Um, but I'm not going to be invested in it at all. But as of right now, give me the Dodgers and the Rays, and I'd love to see the Rays win it all. But they're not
Yeah.
going to. It'll be the
Well,
Dodgers.
you're talking about baseball going up against other sports, and well, today I was super excited to watch a Broncos Patriots game on my birthday. Well, then the COVID happened, and well, we'll suspend it from Sunday to Monday, and then some more guys will test positive. We'll switch it to next week. We'll push the Broncos Dolphins to week 8. We'll push the Dolphins Chargers to week 12. We'll do all these other 8 game scenarios. We might have a week 18. We might have a week 19. I mean, like, what is going on in the NFL right now? And, just forget about fantasy football because
Yeah,
you're picking and choosing guys who may not play, like Michael Thomas not playing tonight because he got to an altercation at practice, and you found out about that after Sunday's games. But
yeah,
Major League Baseball did a great job of containing it. The NBA was in the bubble, and NHL had a couple of bubbles, but it seems like the NFL just can't get it together. And it's kind of affecting me personally too. Is I invest in DraftKings, like the stock DKNG, and I bought it. I was like, all right, sweet. It came out. The IPO was high. It dipped a little bit. I'm like, hey, as soon as the NFL comes back, soon as sports comes back, this thing's going up. Just that's common sense. And not a lot of people even knew DraftKings were a stock, because I'm heavily vested. I've got my MBA and I'm in the stock market and retirement and stuff. So I bought it. Then I noticed as soon as the NFL comes up, all-time highs. COVID starts coming, and just the last 2 weeks, it's dipped 10% just on the NFL suspending games, in my opinion. But it could be baseball's ending, basketball is over. We're gonna have one sport, but NFL dominates money and
yeah.
viewership in every single sport. And now, with coronavirus, who knows what's going to happen going forward? We got one game going on tonight. We're supposed to have a game tomorrow now, a Tuesday game. So I mean, what do you think the NFL is going to have or even look like going forward for the rest of the year?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a void in Goodell's leadership style that it's almost this machismo, protect the shield at all costs. But while you're trying to protect the shield at all costs, you may be harming the shield on the back end because we could do a whole episode on that. I don't necessarily agree with it's almost a cavalier approach that Goodell had that maybe Adam Silver didn't have, or even Rob Manfred didn't have, if you can believe that, kind of going into the season, almost like the NFL's bigger than COVID. It's not, it's not. Um, so who knows, man? I mean, we were talking, earlier about just the craziness of these moving the games here and moving the games there, and one team has an outbreak, so we postpone the game by a day. That doesn't make
What's they
sense.
gonna do?
Yeah, what's a day going to do except get Gilmore one more day? I was telling you, earlier today that imagine a scenario: Cam Newton tests positive, right? And Gilmore is also on the Patriots. He tests negative 3 days in a row, and they only postponed this game by a day. So he plays against the Chiefs on a Monday night. And post game, you see he and Patrick Mahomes shaking hands face to face. And the next morning, Gilmore tests positive. You know, if we get a scenario where they don't do, if they do something like that again, where they postpone a game a day, um, because of a couple of positive tests, and then we see an Aaron Rodgers, a Patrick Mahomes, a Tom Brady, or a multiple of those guys. Yeah, get it, man. They might be shutting down. I mean, the NBA shut down. Rudy Gobert got it, and then Donovan Mitchell, and they're like, "That's it, season's down." Um, and I think Goodell is trying to spin a lot of plates, kind of play a little shell game instead of maybe addressing the issues that need to be addressed and handling it. I think he can handle a little bit better. Who am I? I couldn't develop a response to COVID. I couldn't do it. But then again, I am not the commissioner of the biggest sports league on the planet.
Billions and billions of
Yeah.
dollars.
And he's got the resources and had the time to develop contingency plans and what happens if this and what happens if this. And it just seems to me like he's playing it by the seat of his pants and taking each new scenario as it comes and trying to make a split decision based on that individual scenario because he didn't have a solid plan in place from the beginning. I don't know if he did or not. Those are the optics of it to me, and it's kind of, I don't want to say scary, but it makes me doubtful of seeing a full NFL season to completion.
Yeah, and as far as a card standpoint goes, you were talking about your boy from the Rays. I just can't even pronounce his name. So
Rosarina.
Rosarina. And so Chase Claypool has 4 touchdowns yesterday. All of a sudden, everybody's selling his cards today, selling his cards today. What
I got
happened?
some. If anybody wants to buy, I'll put them up. I'll put them up later.
Oh, you got one like this, little rated rookie there. You just
I
have
might have one of those. I got a lot of his college prism in his Notre Dame uniform.
I collect. I collect former Duke basketball guys and former Irish football players. So I've got a lot of Miles Boykin and a lot of Chase Claypools, but I'm not looking to sell them. I'm not looking to make money off of them. I'm looking to collect them and put them on my shelf in the other room and display them because that's what I do with my cards that I collect.
I'll send you some Claypools. Happy birthday! I'll get you a little package up tonight because they mean nothing to me. So I've got some Claypools. I'll send you. Got a little rainbow of some prisms in his Notre Dame uniform.
And with the fluctuation of one guy being able to push his own card market, I've really seen since we had the stimulus check, everyone was home pretty much except for the essential workers. And I hate to bring it up, but I think it's part of it too, is the extra $600 of unemployment money. People had more money. So now I've seen the last 2 months, almost every PSA 10 that I've got or BGS 9.5 or anything is down 10 to 20% from what it was 2 to 3 months ago. See the whole hobby market down as a whole. I mean, I'm not talking about a bubble burst where just everything just goes right to the crapper, which could happen soon because we're seeing ridiculous prices. Like that card I just showed you is a $3 card. I could probably sell for $11 right now if I wanted to,
Yeah.
just because what happened yesterday. It's just ridiculous, you know. Eloy Jimenez, I bought a PSA 10 for $40, sells on Twitter or eBay last night for $95. Like that's not a $95 card,
Yeah.
but that's what people are paying for it right now. And
It's
you know, we
crazy.
talked about the Zion, and his card was $180 before he even played a game. Like that's what the market was during the COVID, during the height of all of this. And the Ja Morants were $150 for an optic, like
Yeah.
base rookie. And that's just where the cards were. And you know, I'll go ahead and say I bought a Soto for over $200, a Bellinger for 180, and an Acuna for 180. And right now, they're none of them are around that. I mean, Soto's probably the highest right there, but you know, not the bat down. I don't have the bat down Acuna, but you know, the Bellinger,
Yeah.
the Soto, and the Acuna are all down from PSA 10s from when I bought them 2 to 3 months ago. So I think, you know, just last thing I want to hit on before we jump off here is, I think we're kind of in a little downtime. And I've noticed that, you know, I've started running these Monday sales threads is everybody's selling and no one's buying. Like I can't make a sale like I used to months ago. I mean, I've got 21,000 impressions on some tweets and maybe four people are making sales. So I
Yeah.
think everyone bought, and now people are trying to sell, and no one else is buying right now.
I'll give you an example. While you're talking, when you go back and watch this, you might see that I typed for a second, and obviously I was pulling something up on the screen. I just pulled up my seller dashboard off eBay. I don't do a lot of Twitter sales. I do a lot of eBay sales. My last 31 days, I'm down 95.5% in sales. And it's because right now I have zero active listings because kind of like I just kind of stopped. Well, not kind of. I've got zero active listings. Um, but I saw that the decline was starting to happen as I was putting my listings on within hours or a day. The price was the comps were going down. They're going down daily. So I just kind of put the brakes on, and I've been doing some other stuff in my life too. But you know, I definitely saw it affect me. I saw it affect me to the point where it impacted my motivation to be listing a lot of things right now because it's kind of that mental block is why do I want to keep listing more and keep listing more when they're less today than they were 3 weeks ago, and they might be less. And yes, they might continue to go down. So do I want to? I don't say cut my losses because most everything is still at a value that it wouldn't be a loss. But at some point, I'm going to have to make the decision in watching this market activity to see, okay, I've waited and I've lost this much value, this much opportunity cost is gone. Do I go ahead and start listing it all again, or do I kind of ride the wave and see if it goes back up? So it'd be an interesting few weeks, months coming up in the hobby to see where this thing goes.
Yeah.
COVID, uh, is there another stimulus coming? Because we both know, everybody watching this knows, people are not smart with their money, and I've been there. I've been there. I've been in a position, but there's a lot of people out there that they start getting an extra $1,200 a month. They are not going to do the long term. They're going to spend that money. They're going to spend that money. If they love cards and they're into cards, they're going to buy cards with it. Because I got two brothers that do, you know, they're not putting that money back for a rainy day or for if the stimulus runs out. They're going and buying stuff. And I think there's a lot of Americans that are like that. And we saw that. It was like this perfect storm of everybody's at home, people are out of work or they're work from home. So you've got all day to have the computer up, have Twitter up, have eBay up. You got this extra money. Cards are going crazy. And man, it was just like a perfect storm of uh, value just going through the roof. And I don't know where it's going. I don't know where it's going right now.
And while you brought that up, I want to bring up one last point before we jump off here. Today, I put a tweet out says you shouldn't buy cards if you don't have the money to buy cards or something like that. And I got a ton of different responses. And one person's like, well, what are you going to tell someone else what to do with their money? I'm like, I'm not telling what you can and can't do. I'm saying you shouldn't.
Right.
You don't have money to buy cards, you should not be buying cards. And it goes directly to people hitting me up my DM like, hey, can you buy this card for me and I'll pay you back later? Like, no, absolutely not. Why would I
Yeah.
spend my money to buy you something and you'll pay me back later? Like, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. You don't get the card. Like,
Right.
is it a point where it becomes, you call it a gambling addiction? Because, you
I
know,
mean, yes, because I mean, buying cards, especially ripping cards, it's kind of like gambling. But it's kind of the I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. Um, and we had an episode, and anybody who's watching this for the first time, don't get us wrong. We talked last week or 2 weeks ago about how it is none of our business how you spend your money, how you hobby,
no,
how you collect. I don't.
yeah,
It's none of my business.
go ahead and
However, as a
steal on
human
target. Go for it.
and a father and someone who has struggled in his past in being smart with money, if you've got to say, I claim that card on Tuesday, but hey, can you wait till I get paid on Friday to buy it? You probably shouldn't be buying the card, in my opinion. If it's paycheck to paycheck and you're having to wait till Friday to get paid, discretionary income is these. If you're collecting cards, if you're a young guy out there and you're collecting cards, take it from an old fart. I'm 46 years old. Buy what you can afford. There's nothing wrong. I spend a lot of money on cards now, probably too much. I wish I didn't spend as much, but I've got some discretionary income that I've built up at this age, and so that is my hobby. I no longer golf. I no longer do the things I did when I was young. So,
And
but if I
there's
were paycheck to paycheck, it is
there's
an addiction, and it can get that way. And I hope that if I can be self aware enough that if I ever get back to where, God, I'm waiting on that next paycheck to pay these bills, surely to God, I'm not going to be out buying a jaw rookie with some of that money. I don't know.
and there's different ways to collect. Like I started buying these spellbound cards for 75 cents a dollar because I want to spell out my family's name.
Yeah.
I made this Baker Mayfield thing, and people were like, "Hey, that's really cool. I like that." So I saw them. I got on. Christian McCaffrey basically spells my whole entire family's name except for a B and an I. So I just buy a bunch of him.
Yeah.
Like, who do you collect? Because I like to collect former Irish guys and former Duke guys. I can buy Miles Boykin and Chase Claypools and you know Brady Quinns for nothing, or I can buy a bunch of these playbooks. I like these. These are a bunch of money, but I can do that. Or I got just random boxes of blasters because I enjoy opening with my wife and my kids. But there's a different way to collect for everyone. You might like vintage. You might like junk wax era. You might like PSA 10s. You might be Phil Hughes with a ton of money, or this Logan Paul guy who just opened a $20,000
Yeah, I saw
box
that.
or something
Yeah.
like that. I didn't
Yeah.
see it, but one of my buddies was telling me about it. But there's a place in the hobby for everybody. Whatever you like to
Absolutely.
collect,
Yeah, you're right.
just
And you can collect without having to collect above your means. Just
yeah.
live
And
within your
that's
means.
that's not just collecting. I know you talked about before, people who go golf besides that's their hobby, or stand in line at Target, or people live above their means. I'm starting to ramble, getting into stuff we shouldn't even talk about now. Just
Yeah,
if you don't have the money, don't buy the card. That's all there is to
I
it.
agree. I agree.
Have a
You know what,
great
man?
day, enjoy yourself, and leave the card on the shelf.
You just you mentioned something a couple of times tonight, and I've had to laugh because you know you, you're a Duke guy in basketball and a Notre Dame guy in football. And man, we have had such good conversations over this past 5 or 6 months, and we do this together every Monday night. And it just kind of, I think it's, I wish more of life could be like what we do because I can't stand Duke basketball. I can't stand Notre Dame football. I can't. But you know what? We find common ground to talk about things that do bind us and that are common. And I just wish we could all do that on some more things besides just always having to be at each other's throat and me saying, "Oh my God, he's a Duke fan. Duke sucks." And I enjoy the fact that we've, um, had we had a, if we were both those negative type guys, we probably wouldn't be able to have these type conversations. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for all the birthday love. I'm going to jump off here. It's getting a little late, almost 10 o'clock our time. I got some boxes to open with my wife before we get to bed here because, got to be up early with the kids tomorrow. So
Yeah. Life of a
that's all I
dad.
have.
Well, happy birthday, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the time with your wife, and we'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it. Everybody take
All right,
care. Thanks
peace.
for
All
watching.
right.